App Store, the Apple App Store, apparently earned twice as much as the Google Play Store in Q3 2020. This is big because the install base of the Google App Store is enormous, obviously. But there's been this thinking for a while that, well, iPhone users are spending more in the iOS App Store. Keep in mind, by the way, this includes those in-app purchases. This includes the Epic stuff that all the arguments are about with the 30 points and all the rest of it. Both of the app stores, the Apple App Store and the Google Play Store, have been growing big time, especially recently. People spending more money inside of their favorite apps, becoming more comfortable with the idea. So here's growth from 2019 to 2020 for the same quarter, Q3. You have 21.6 billion. That's the total number of downloads. So, which I guess is also a significant, it's worth looking at. In Q3 2019, you had 20 plus 21.6 billion Google Play downloads of apps compared to 8 billion in the iOS App Store. So fewer apps downloaded on iOS, but for more money generated. That's up to 28.3 billion in Q3 2020 for Google Play and 8.2 billion for iOS. Okay, so the number of apps downloaded didn't increase by that much, but when you look at the spending, you scroll down to the next graph, that's where it gets wild. Apple goes from 14.5 billion spending in the App Store to 19 billion. A nice smooth little almost 5 billion improvement. And Google Play goes from 7.7 billion same period last year to 10.3 billion this year. And of course, the iOS App Store looking at almost twice as much revenue. And this revenue takes into account, as you know, not just, hey, I bought an app, but more importantly, that's my monthly subscription fee, or that's my V-Bucks.
It goes right into Apple's wallet.
30% of it does, and it sure looks like it's paying off big time. So some might be wondering, well, wait a sec, why, if you have so many more installs and so many more app downloads on the Google Play side, why is it not generating a one-to-one ratio? And many have attempted to look into this. iPhones are more expensive to begin with in most cases, meaning that user may have more discretionary income to spend within the App Store. Some would argue that the App Store experience makes you more comfortable with some level of spending. But it could also be policies around that 30% cut and how each store may treat it a little bit differently. If you scroll down a little more, you can see what some of the top apps in that same quarter have been. You look at the TikTok domination at the top of the list for both Google Play and the App Store. Zoom is a big climber. YouTube is near the top, of course, for iOS because it's not on there by default. It's nowhere in the top list for Google Play because it's already on the device. You got Instagram, WhatsApp. This is pretty, there's not too many standouts, although Snack Video is kind of interesting on Google Play. I've never used that application. And then on iOS, you have Netflix cracking the top 10, whereas on Google Play, Snapchat still owns a spot in the top 10. It's funny, though, on iOS, you have to go get all your Google apps. Number 9 is Google Maps. Number 8 is Gmail. And number 3 is YouTube.
Yeah.
So you go and get your, imagine that, Will. You get your iOS device and you immediately load it with Google and Facebook.
Yeah.
Number 3, YouTube. Number 4, Instagram. Number 5, WhatsApp, owned by Facebook. Instagram, owned by Facebook. Number 6, Facebook. Number 7, Messenger, owned by Facebook. 8, Gmail. 9, Google Maps. 10, Netflix. Goes to show you how important these connections are.
Yeah.
What is your iPhone without that list of apps? How useful is it? Or how non-useful? I mean, on the other side, look, Telegram cracks in on Google Play as well. Kind of interesting. Now, if you scroll down to the next chart, by the way, shout out to Sensor Tower for these cool charts over here. This is revenue. And once again, it's some TikTok domination overall for revenue, which is weird, right? Because how do they determine TikTok's revenue in the App Store?
Yeah.
It must be based on advertising, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So you've got some ad revenue going on. That must explain why YouTube is number 2 as well. 10-cent video. Tinder in the App Store is number 4 for revenue. because Apple's
hot.
getting that 30% piece, I guess,
Oh, for like a premium account.
which
on
I know
Tinder.
nothing about. But what is that, like $10?
I have no idea.
$20? I don't know what but Apple gets their piece. Netflix, Disney Plus, etc. It's a really interesting list. It's not they're not in there. There's not a single app that you just pay for upfront, which goes to show you how important this revenue structure, which is under attack from Epic, how important it is to these platforms. A bit of a surprise on Google Play. Google One is the first app, which I guess kind of makes sense because they're trying to encourage you to get the storage and whatever else going on.
Yeah.
But anyways, interesting stuff to look at and a little bit different depending which platform you're on. But total lump sum figures, $20 billion in a quarter for Apple and $10 billion in a quarter for Google Play. And it's a huge increase from the same period last year. So they don't want to give up those 30 points. It's big money.
No.
It's big money.